Welcome to the Explainer. So, I want you to picture someone you know who makes genuinely good money. Maybe it's a friend, a coworker, or let's be real, maybe it's you. You've got a solid salary, a stable job, you're not out there buying yachts, and yet, somehow, at the end of every single month, the bank account is just running on fumes. The paycheck hits, the bills go out, and the whole exhausting cycle just completely resets itself. If you're feeling that invisible financial squeeze right now, I really want to reassure you, you are absolutely not alone. Today, we're going to unpack exactly how to break out of this trap.
But real quick, before we dive in, just a standard reminder, this explainer is strictly for educational purposes, so it's not financial advice. Your situation is totally unique, so definitely consult a licensed financial professional before making any massive money moves. All right, with that out of the way, I need to drop a massive reality check on you.
Just look at this number, 40%. Right now, literally 40% of Americans pulling in over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. Just let that sink in for a second. This totally proves we aren't just dealing with a low-income issue here, and we are absolutely not dealing with a willpower problem or people just being bad with money. What we're actually looking at is a structural problem, and it is catching people at literally every single income level.
So, to get you out of this, we've designed basically an escape room plan. We're going to cover 1. The trap. 2. The mechanics. 3. Step 1. The circuit breaker. 4. Step 2. One-number budget. 5. Step 3. Attack major leaks. And finally, 6. Step 4. Build the gap.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. The trap. Why willpower isn't enough.
We really have to debunk the most annoying financial myth out there, that simply cutting out your daily latte or ditching a streaming service is magically going to save you. Like, sure, that might help at the margins, but those aren't the real culprits keeping you stuck. The real culprits are way bigger, much more structural, and practically invisible. First up is inflation outpacing wages. Just look at this gap. Between April 2025 and April 2026, wages grew by 3.6%, but inflation rose 3.8%. That leaves a 0.24% gap where prices are actually rising faster than your paycheck. And yeah, it sounds tiny, right? But it means every single month, your dollar buys just a little bit less. You aren't changing your habits, you aren't spending recklessly, things just literally cost more. Your purchasing power is silently eroding away.
And you can see how this builds into a genuine squeeze. The average American household now spends roughly $78,535 a year just on living costs. So if your household take-home pay is $80,000, that leaves you with a margin of just $1,465 for the entire year. Break that down, and it is a razor-thin $125 a month. That is your only breathing room for emergencies, paying down debt, or, actually saving.
And then, of course, we have culprit number 2, lifestyle inflation. This right here is exactly why high earners get trapped. Every time you get a raise, it's immediately swallowed up by a slightly better apartment, a slightly newer car, maybe some nicer vacations. The math on this is just brutal. A person earning $120,000 who lives like they earn $115,000 builds wealth. But a person earning $120,000 who lives like they earn $125,000, they go straight into debt. And this gap is entirely invisible until it's just way too late.
Which brings us to the next part, the mechanics, the gravity of the cycle.
So what actually happens when that tiny, razor-thin margin completely disappears? Let's look at the actual gravity of this situation. It's basically a vicious loop. You get paid, you pay your essential bills, but then inevitably, step 3 hits, an unexpected expense, a broken alternator, a random medical bill. Because your margin is 0 and you don't have savings, you're forced into step 4, putting it on a credit card. And we all know that card charges high interest, which means, entering step 5, your next paycheck essentially shrinks because you just added a brand new minimum debt payment to your plate. The margin gets tighter, the next emergency hits even harder, and the cycle just compounds. You simply cannot willpower your way out of this kind of momentum. You need a structural intervention.
And that leads us to step 1, the circuit breaker, interrupting the loop.
This is our very first structural key. We literally need to engineer a way to physically interrupt this loop. And look at the sheer power of just $1,000. The circuit breaker is a $1,000 buffer kept in a totally separate savings account. Its one and only job is to stop an unexpected expense from putting you into debt. Imagine you get hit with an $800 car repair. Without this buffer, that goes straight on a credit card at what, 24% interest? And the cycle accelerates. But with this $1,000 buffer, you just pay cash. The cycle doesn't even start. No new minimum payments are created.
That is the absolute genius of the circuit breaker mechanism.
Now you might be sitting there wondering, okay, but how on earth do I get $1,000 if my margin is zero? Well, you treat it like a 30-day sprint. Most of us have around $200 to $500 worth of unused clothes, old electronics, or gym equipment just gathering dust. Sell it this week. Second, do one specific side task for literally just one weekend. Mow lawns, drive for a rideshare app, pick up an online gig. You don't need to become a full-time entrepreneur here, just generate a specific amount for this one specific purpose. Finally, completely pause all non-essential spending for just 30 days and redirect every single dollar into that do not touch account.
All right, moving on to step 2. One number budget. Simplifying the math.
So, once you've got that circuit breaker in place, you need a way to manage your monthly cash flow without completely losing your mind. Forget about those complicated spreadsheets with like 15 different spending categories. They are exhausting, and let's be honest, everyone abandons them. We're going to simplify the math. Take your monthly take-home pay, let's say it's $4,500, you subtract your absolute non-negotiable fixed expenses. Rent, minimum debt payments, groceries. Let's call that $3,200. What's left over is $1,300. That right there is your one number. It is literally the only number you need to track. Every discretionary dollar you spend on dining out, shopping, going to the movies, it all comes out of that $1,300. And when it's gone, it's gone. No fancy tracking apps required, just watch that one single number.
But here is the absolute secret to actually making this work. The secret reorder. Before you spend a single dime of that one number on anything fun, you must automatically transfer at least $100 to your savings or your debt on payday. You do this before you even see the money. Reordering your life to prioritize savings before spending, that is the main structural divide between people who escape the trap and people who stay stuck.
Next up, step 3, attack major leaks, plugging the wealth destroyers.
Now that we've simplified your cash flow, it is time to go on the offensive. We need to find the biggest hole in your financial bucket and plug it. These are your usual suspects. And look, you don't need to fix everything all at once. Just pick the single biggest wealth destroyer you're dealing with. Is your housing taking up more than 35% of your take-home pay? If so, it might be time for a roommate or to trade down. Are you drowning in a $700 monthly car payment for a vehicle that's constantly losing value? Trading down to something reliable can free up thousands a year. Or maybe it's the 20+% APR on your credit cards. If it's the cards, you throw every single spare dollar at the highest rate balance using the avalanche method. Just pick one leak and attack it relentlessly.
Finally, step 4, build the gap, growing the margin.
Which brings us to our final, permanent solution. You've stopped the bleeding, and now it's time to grow the margin. The gap is simply the intentional space you create between what you earn and what you spend. Financial experts totally agree that households are way more likely to succeed if they focus on increasing their income rather than just endlessly cutting expenses. If you can find a way to bump up your monthly income by just $300 to $500, whether that's successfully negotiating a raise, picking up an extra shift, or leveraging a side skill, it dramatically speeds up your escape. Even just an extra $200 a month, automatically transferred to savings, starts permanently rebuilding that buffer this cycle destroyed.
And hey, speaking of building wealth, if this explainer helped you see your finances in a new light, please like, share, and subscribe to SenseWise. We drop new explainers just like this every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Always remember, living paycheck to paycheck is a structural trap. It is absolutely not a character flaw. It happens to the best of us. But now, you actually have the structural exit plan to break free.
You don't have to fix everything today. You just have to take the very first step this week. So I want to hear from you. What is the hardest part of breaking the paycheck to paycheck cycle in your own life? Let's talk it out down in the comments. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.